Hello, everyone. This annoyed me, and a lot has annoyed me for the last 2 weeks. Give me a minute. I'm gonna shut this fan off. I'm just trying to be nice. Sorry, I was talking to my cat. Anyway, I turned the fan off now, so we won't hear all that background noise. Now, this video is going to be about salon culture and what has happened to what has happened to the salon and everything, beauty culture. A lot of stuff is going into this video. I am currently in school for cosmetology. Yeah, so I've had a lot of experience of doing hair, the education, dealing with owners, dealing with instructors, dealing with clients, because we're going to talk about that, and all that type of thing. Now, I'm going to say this. I do not, and let me put some music on because we need some music. I am not, first and foremost, I'm never going to pretend there are not unprofessional stylists, even licensed, because a lot of us like to blame, or say, that's what you get for going to someone who doesn't have a license, which a lot of you seem to. A lot of you, especially in the Black community, do not care. You just want something to look cute. You don't care about the hair health. And I agree with the people with licenses because I'm working towards one, and really just because, why hold people accountable for your hair health when you don't seem to really care about it yourself? You would not go to a random person on the street corner if you had a broken leg. You would not go to a random person if you broke your nose. You would not go to a random person if you had, feminine bleeding, and I don't mean a menstrual cycle, like unusual vaginal bleeding. You would not just go to a random person. I mean, even doulas, or however you say that word, or, the people who help midwives are sort of scrutinized in a certain way. And do I think that's all, warranted? No, but I understand that people do not leave their bodies. Reasonable people would not leave their bodies to people who don't hold a license. Now, I would say, as a cos student, I have seen enough, heard enough, and understand enough that I think stylists, especially because there's a difference between a stylist and a cosmetologist. My parents asked me this. A stylist is not concerned about the health of the hair. Cosmetologist is basically, unless you want to include like a trichologist, cosmetologists and trichologists are the doctors of the hair. Dermatology is obviously the doctor of the skin and all of the structures of skin, and you go to them for really bad acne or pustules or abscesses or things of that nature, right? Anything that a esthetician cannot help you with, because they help with acne, and I also want to get that license as well. And I also want to get certified as a laser tech. So anyway, I think we as cosmetologists have damaged our own reputation, especially when there are those of us in the community of hair and beauty. First of all, let's talk about Black women, because that's where it started. The problem arose. Black women diminished ourselves, and I say ourselves even though I don't like the word Black, and I have said that multiple times, but I say Black because most people would understand who I'm talking about for context. But we have diminished ourselves by going to white institutions and legal systems and saying we shouldn't have to be seen as a professional. We should just be able to do hair out of our basement and not know what we're doing, because these are, such as braiding, locks, or whatever, that's a part of a culture. As if other styles are not a part of somebody else's culture or even our own culture. But, because back in the day, our mothers and foremothers wore roller sets and had, the Marcel curls. Actually, Marcel was designed for white women. But anyway, we had those too. Anyway, we have diminished ourselves by saying we don't need a license. But then we get I'm going to say something, and I don't care who doesn't like it. You should not be able to say the word client. You don't have clients. You have people who pull up to your house. If you don't, you have people you practice on if you don't have a license. You don't have a clientele. Doctors have patients. Therapists, there's a license to be a therapist, there's a degree, there's schooling, all of that type of thing. To be a counselor, to be a mental health professional. They have clients because we don't want to call them patients anymore, unless you're like literally in the loony bin. But they have clients. You should not be able to utter the word client and be taken seriously, or that word hold any validity in your case or your instance if you are not licensed. And Black people, even though I don't like that word and I hate that word, and it legally means something that you don't realize that it means, but it means your property. But anyway, and there is no such thing as a Black person, but that's besides the point. Anyway, that's for a different video. We have come into agreement with mediocrity, and then we're shocked. For some odd reason, at least a subset of us are shocked by the results we get out of accepting mediocrity. Now, I'm getting away from people who don't have a license. We can talk about that a different time. There are people who do have licenses, who are no better than people without a license. I'm just saying. And I'm never gonna hold anybody on that. I'm never going to sugarcoat that, because those are people, whether they're barbers, whether they're estheticians, whether they're anything in the beauty industry, nail technicians, who did not care to further their education. Because school, just like they say about law school, because eventually I want to be a lawyer at some point. Law school does not teach you how to be a lawyer. It's basically there to help you to pass the bar, and not, to teach you how to not get everything you submit to the judge or to the court thrown out. It teaches you how to argue a case, but it does not make you a lawyer. There are lots of people who have their law degree and are not practicing lawyers. They are not attorneys, because there's a difference between a lawyer and an attorney as well. But so just like college in general, going to school to be a doctor does not teach you how to be a doctor. It teaches you how not to kill people, the correct way to do X, Y, and Z. And then example, I don't want to go to an ear, nose, and throat doctor to get breast implants if I ever got such a thing. Just like I would not go to the dentist for an ear infection. Those are specialties where, especially for surgery in general, you have to go on and further your education. You can't just stop at, I have my license as a doctor, right? And think you're going to be taken sick. Well, legally, you can't do that. But anyone can actually do plastic surgery. And I've heard horror stories of that. But a reasonable person is going to look up a plastic surgeon who is a doctor, who went on to further their education in plastic surgery and how to understand the overall techniques and all that type of thing, to not butcher people. Literally. I don't mean just butcher in the sense of killing or anything like that, or death causing. I mean literally butcher people, botching people. So there are people who got their license who said, that's it, I'm done, and do not care to learn any further. There are people also who went to college school, barber school, whatever, who we're talking about cosmetology, who learned very bad advice from instructors who they themselves were mediocre stylists, and they didn't care to do anything except get an instructor's license so they could boss people around and have you be their shampoo girl or their friend, to look up to them in awe or some type of thing. And I could tell you a lot about instructors. There are instructors I would not take any hair health advice from. And they've obviously been licensed for years. No licensed professional who really understands hair growth, hair science, I should say, will tell you to use grease on the scalp. Nothing goes on the scalp except for shampoo. Nothing goes on the scalp. Now, if you want to add, or if you feel your mids and ends are dry, then I would use a light oil. But a professional who actually knows is worth their weight, is worth the piece of paper with their name on it, they're not going to tell you to grease your scalp. They're not. And if they do, they're being paid to say that. That was another discussion I had with someone on a YouTube channel where one lady who is the actual scientist, and no, it's not Sindal, it's a different lady. She said, she was basically saying, why is there all of a sudden this obsession with hair grease? And the natural hair, now I'm going to say that I have no interest once I graduate working with natural hair. Absolutely none. Unless it's locks or very basic braids, like straight backs, individuals, or to just do a braid down for a sew-in. But I have no interest in specializing in natural hair, none of that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I actually am at a school where you learn on primarily Black people and that are doing natural hairstyles, cuts, colors, all that, blowouts, all that type of thing. Let me see this. I don't know why it's doing that. It's bothering me. Anyway, but I understand natural hair and the way that people style it. Let's just say that, because that's what I've worked on the most. I have no interest in apprenticing somewhere after I graduate and get licensed. I have no interest in doing primarily Black people's hair. Absolutely no interest in doing that at all. You don't make a whole lot of money doing that, and you have the worst clientele. I'm just saying that. I don't care whose feelings that hurts. It's just true. And you get situations like I'm about to show you of people who think they know better than you and who want to argue. Now, I tried to find this video without any commentary. I could not find it. And I'm going to switch. Should I be like this or should I be like this? I like this better. Okay. Now, I'm going to say this before I push play. I fault both of these women. I fault them both. Do I fault the stylist more? Yes. Now, do we know if she's actually licensed? This is another thing I wondered. Is this woman actually licensed? I don't know. But again, a stylist is totally different than a cosmetologist. I have no interest also in billing myself as a hairstylist. A stylist simply is doing a style. So a braider could call themselves a stylist, in my humble opinion. They're just, like I said, they are not interested. They are not focused on the health of the hair. They're focused on, they're basically what is the majority in the Black community as it is. They're interested in making something look pretty. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a stylist doing that. I'm saying that's what a stylist is. They are not, it is not their responsibility to understand or care about the health of the hair. Their job is to put the style in your hair. and make it look as nice as possible, period. So let's get to the